Alrighty, greetings and salutations, everyone. My name is Andrew Kirchhoff, and welcome to our Saturday afternoon live stream for Week 12 of the 2025 fantasy football season. For over the course of the next hour plus, we're talking all things fantasy football related for Week 12. Hope you guys are having a wonderful Saturday. As you guys know, whether you do send in your questions via the live chat and or via super chat to claim priority, the more context you provide, the easier it'll be for myself to answer said questions. Again, your scoring format, how many teams are in your league, if you're asking a trade question, the context of what you have on roster, certainly of importance. Again, going into Week 12, we've gotten more and more information in regards to the potential of some players being out or in based on injuries. We talked about hidden gems yesterday in the capacity of players like an Andre Yoshivas or a Darius Slayton, a Bashal Tutin, etc. So if you guys haven't checked out that video, of course, posted on the channel as of yesterday. But in regards to going into this weekend, like I typically like to do at the beginning of our Saturday live streams, I want to talk about a couple of the injuries that are of note that we should probably keep an eye on here and there as we get closer to this upcoming Sunday. Again, some of these injuries, whether they do actually play an impact, to be determined. Again, anytime like a starting cornerback is out, like Cam Taylor-Britt being out for the Cincinnati Bengals, I think that certainly does help the potential of the passing game of a Drake May, right? So technically speaking, there is still a lot of potential in the case in which we have a player here or there missing, like Noah Sewell, linebacker of the Chicago Bears, alongside of Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. I mean, their primary three linebackers being out this week, very much so of importance when it comes to the running game and the efforts of the Steelers in that capacity. But in regards to like fantasy players being out, obviously we know the likes of guys like Rashad Bateman's going to be out. Does that really implicate anything else? I think it just helps potentially Mark Andrews score more touchdowns genuinely. Brian Thomas being out, I think that genuinely helps Jacoby Myers, Parker Washington in terms of their opportunity share that they'll be exposed to within this upcoming week. I think in terms of like, is there any significant offensive line injuries? Lane Johnson's going to be out this week. I know Havenstein, the starting right tackle as well of the Los Angeles Rams, is going to the injured reserve. There's a couple players here and there that are certainly of importance, but in the grand scheme, are they going to make the biggest difference within the rankings? Not the greatest. This week, kind of a light week in terms of injuries. Nothing crazy. Players that we thought at the beginning of the week may be injured and not playing this week, like a Josh Jacobs, he was looking perfect on Thursday. I don't know if you guys saw the video on Twitter of him running around. He looked like he was in a perfect position and shape. Anyway, let's go ahead and let's begin to answer some of these questions. Again, we'll continue to develop our thoughts regarding some of these players as we go into this week. Again, do not forget that tomorrow morning I'll be live streaming here on the channel. So if I'm not able to get to your question at a full capacity as of this moment, again, tomorrow morning from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. PST tomorrow, I will be live here on the channel with updated rankings on screen as we typically have. But for those of you who are not able to make it to those Sunday live streams, of course, you could check out the Betr sign up. The promotion currently offers, if you sign up using code Andrew, make that first time deposit minimum of 10, then make a first time play within a real cash play. You'll be eligible to get my ranking sent from my email to yours. Half PPR, full PPR, all rankings, including flex. So if you guys are interested, of course, check out the map to, not that one, this one. Check out this map to the right side of the screen to determine your eligibility based on your current location. And if you sign up today, you get a free $10. So take advantage of that. Thank you. Link and all that information down below. Okay, let's go ahead and let's answer some of these questions, shall we? I see many of you who sent in super chats want to get to those. And of course, I appreciate you guys sending those through. And I want to go ahead and make sure you guys don't have to wait too long to get those responses. So we begin with D99, who sends in a question. By the way, YouTube recently changed a lot of your guys' names. So it like changed your name from, instead of your channel name, to being like your handle now. So if by any means your name was something else and I don't recognize it now because it's changed, just be purely aware of that. Like D99 could have been somebody else, but now they've changed it to this. I don't know. Anyway, continue. Actually, let me see. Let it load. No. Okay. So D99 says the following. 10-team PPR started Nico, so I have one wide receiver spot open with Michael Pittman Jr., or do I risk it with Slayton? Also pick 2-2. Okay, so first and foremost, am I willing to play Darius Slayton over a Michael Pittman Jr. player? No. I think Michael Pittman Jr. has done enough thus far this season for me to justify starting him blindly every single week for the remainder of the year. I think if he was to have 3 performances in a row of less than 10 fantasy points, maybe at that point, I would be like, all right, we can go ahead and just, be a little bit careful with him. But even with the Kansas City matchup, I am assuming that he should be just a priority start in comparison to a Darius Slayton, who again is still coming off of a hamstring. So he is still technically a risky play himself. So yes, I would play Pittman there as your number 2 wide receiver, even with Nico not having the greatest day on Thursday. As for your second question, Do I play Breece Hall, Dowdle, Hunt, or Sean Tucker? I'm going to be honest. I think, okay, so Breece Hall is your worst option of the group because the matchup just purely entailed taking on the Ravens, not the greatest overall position. So it's really going to be between Dowdle, Hunt, and Sean Tucker, to which at this moment, I actually do believe the best combo of this situation is probably Dowdle as your number 1 and Sean Tucker as your number 2. I will say, obviously, Kareem Hunt scoring double-digit fantasy points and a half PPR for 3 consecutive games does give me the real consideration of playing him over a Sean Tucker-esque player, but Sean's been playing at an all-time rate, getting himself great overall opportunity share. I understand that the Rams are a solid run-stop defense, but we've seen, of course, the last 2 games, them get a pretty good share of fantasy points scored against them from running backs on the ground isolated. So if it's me, I'll go Dowdle and Sean Tucker there as my 1-2 combo. As for start the Browns or Raiders defense, I prefer the Browns defense taking on Geno Smith, who has been a turnover machine this year. Thank you. Boone 9778 says, full PPR, should I start Hunter Henry or Parker Washington? In a full PPR capacity, the sketchy part of Hunter Henry is that his opportunity share hasn't been incredibly impactful week over week. But in a matchup as such, taking on a defense that cannot stop opposing tight ends, I think in this circumstance, I'd be very much so willing to go ahead and play Hunter Henry because I think the touchdown upside is so much significantly higher because of the matchup itself that it becomes a viable play in this circumstance. So if it was me in a full PPR, I would be playing Hunter Henry in this circumstance. Thank you. Flotation, what's up? Says check cord. No dart this week, still got a chance. Okay, so if you have no dart, that means you were probably pivoting considering we didn't play Davis Mills on Thursday. The next theoretical best option most likely is going to be, let's see what you had. Let's see what you have here. It says no dart, most likely Shuck this week. Okay, let me look at the roster. So if you're going to play Shuck there, which again, Shuck last time out against Carolina had himself a solid game, so I'm not too worried about his overall circumstance taking on Atlanta's secondary that just had Bryce Young go for career numbers against them. So I would assume Tyler Shuck in this circumstance. Oh, am I playing him over Jameis Winston, though? Oh, wow, that's an interesting one. I don't think I'm going to play him over Jameis. I think if it's my team, I think I have to play Jameis there. That's probably the way in which I would go about it. I think Detroit's matchup is a little bit softer indoors in a game in which we know for a fact Detroit's going to blow them out. So Winston's probably throwing 40 plus times this week, which again is one of the plays that I put together via Betr for this upcoming week in regards to taking more on Jameis Winston's overall passing attempts, because the Detroit Lions over the course of the last 13 games post-loss, they are 13-0 against the spread. So currently spread's at 12.5. I would assume that they're going to blow out the the Giants, and in doing so, forcing a lot of passing from Jameis Winston. So if it's me, I probably roll Jameis there. If you want to play Shuck, it's perfectly fine. But in regards to potentially having a chance this week, again, anything can happen. So I wouldn't put it past the potential of your roster still being able to eke it out this week. Thank you. Mike Shores sends in a question. Mike, thank you very much. I appreciate it, Mike. I appreciate that. Okay. Says Tucker or Sharps this week. I would prefer to play Sean Tucker. Again, with Bucky Irving out, I don't think that Rachaad White really stands a chance within this backfield. Considering you're playing Walker, it does make it a little bit more intriguing to go in the direction of Zach Charbonnet, considering the matchup against Tennessee. Currently 13.5 point favorites. You would assume that almost every single starting option from JSN to Charbonnet to Walker to Barner should be able to score a touchdown across the board in a matchup in which they should be putting up over 30 points against this Tennessee defense. I think in terms of the safety of encapsulating all of the fantasy points of the Seattle backfield and starting both Charbonnet and Walker, I think the logic is there. Personally, I think the upside revolves around just going with Tucker and Walker and just hoping that they put up individually great performances so you can reach that potential for upside. Otherwise, if you just wanted to go ahead and secure this backfield, I think there's enough value there to be able to get 2 top 24 running backs very easily this week. Thank you. Harmon sends in a question. Thank you very much, Harmon. Says, happy Saturday, Andrew. In a half PPR, I need 2 flex between Wan'Dale Robinson, Alec Pierce, Ricky Pearsall, and Jake Ferguson. I've got Goddard as my tight end and AJ Brown as my wide receiver 1 this week, and I'm playing against Jalen Hurts. Also, Jacksonville, Atlanta, or the LA Rams defense. In regards to those defensive plays this week, I think I'm going to play I want to play the LA Rams defense in this circumstance because they've just been so consistent, and I don't want to have to drop them this week in order to kind of accommodate for that specific kind of rotation. So if it's me, I probably end up rolling the LA Rams there. If I'm not going to roll the LA Rams, I'd probably just end up playing New Orleans and just trying to Sorry, you have Atlanta. Sorry. I wouldn't. Do I want to play Atlanta's defense? Not really either. I mean, I guess they can. No, I'm just going to play the LA Rams. That's who I'm going to have ranked higher tomorrow. I'll take the LA Rams there. Now, in regards to the rest of your question, between these available options and a half PPR scoring format, I really do like Pierce and Pearsall. The potential of Wan'Dale Robinson indoors in Detroit, it's going to be a lot better of a weather condition circumstance that'll allow for Jameis Winston to throw the ball a little bit more in comparison to last week, where again, the weather and the wind was certainly of a negative impact and, of course, forced for them to run the ball as effectively. I mean, it didn't force the effectiveness of the running game, but it just forced the volume of attempts in which they sent forth. If I was going to look in the direction of starting two of these, I probably I kind of want to play Ricky Pearsall there, but I don't know if it's the safe play per se. If it's me, I think I just go with Wan'Dale Robinson and Alec Pierce if I'm picking two of them. Jake Ferguson could be an option, but again, it's a tough matchup itself. So for now, I'll take Wan'Dale Robinson and Alec Pierce between this combo. Thank you. Gravity sends in a question. Gravity, thank you very much. This is in a full PPR. Start two running backs and one flex. Alvin Kamara, Zach Charbonnet, Tyrone Tracy, Jahmyr Gibbs, Sean Tucker, Wan'Dale Robinson, DK Metcalf, George Pickens, Josh Downs, and Matt Collins. Okay, I believe Kayshon Boutte playing, so Matt Collins not as viable as a play as Matt Collins has pretty much played within the Kayshon Boutte role of late, but nonetheless, in regards to the overall circumstance here, in terms of running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs, as you know, should be the auto start. In regards to the combination of someone like Sean Tucker / Alvin Kamara, in a full PPR, I feel a little bit, not greatly, but I feel a little bit better about playing Kamara in the full PPR capacity in comparison. I think there is a justification there just to go ahead and roll with Kamara in hopes that, again, this offense is able to keep a neutral script and continue to run the ball at a relatively high level, but additionally get him the receiving workload he desires. So I'll go with Kamara and Gibbs as your 1-2 combo there at RB. In regards to wide receiver this week, in a full PPR scoring format, George Pickens has to play. I mean, he's been far too consistent. He can take a singular play and make his entire week. I probably pair him up alongside of Wan'Dale Robinson in this circumstance, to which if I'm looking towards a potential flex play in a full PPR, I don't know if Rodgers going to play, guys. I feel like there's a really high likelihood in which he does, which kind of gives me like a desire to want to potentially play DK Metcalf. But I think in terms of the way that I probably end up rolling this is I probably end up just putting Sean Tucker in my flex. So I probably go Gibbs, Kamara, Pickens, Wan'Dale, Sean Tucker in the flex. I could consider playing DK there in the flex, but for now, I think Sean Tucker's the play. Thank you. JV, what's up? Questions in the chat, he says. Flacco, Lawrence, Young, Rodgers, Tyrod Taylor, Shuck, or Winston? Which one? Okay, so of the available options here in regards to quarterback, you have Trevor Lawrence. You do have Lawrence. I think Trevor Lawrence is a viable enough option. You have Bryce Young there, but again, I think the 49ers defense is awful, but I don't know if it's justifiable to roll him this week over a Lawrence and or even a Joe Flacco in this circumstance. I think Flacco is a lesser option without Jamar Chase out there for sure. Of these available options, I'd probably rank them like number 1, I'm going Lawrence. Number 2, I'm probably going Winston. Number 3, I'm going Flacco. So that's the order in which I would go about it. If it's my roster, I'd probably end up rolling Lawrence in this circumstance. And then in regards to your next question, it says I have Jonathan Taylor, Javonte Williams, JSN, AJB, McBride, and Tetaroa at the flex. Bench consisting of Judkins, Otten, Wilson, and Walker. Any changes to make? If I was going to theoretically make a change in a full PPR, I wouldn't. I do believe that in your circumstance here, playing JSN, AJB, and Tetaroa McMillan is actually probably the most ideal lineup in a full PPR capacity. Had it been a half PPR, I would probably tell you to play Tet over AJB and then play Walker in the flex. So basically removing AJ Brown from the lineup. But in a full PPR, I think it's justifiable. Other league question. Thoughts on Pierce? Should I pick up Pearsall, Slayton, Washington, or to start? I would still roll with Pierce in this circumstance. I think your next best option, technically speaking, is Ricky Pearsall. And then subsequently after, probably Parker Washington, then Darius Slayton. But in this circumstance, I'm still rolling with Alec Pierce. He's seen far too much opportunity share. Again, in 3 of the last 4 games where he has been given the ample share of opportunity, in those games, he's getting about 10 targets on average. So the opportunity share is just far too relevant for us to ignore that. Thank you. All right, moving on to Anthony O, who sends in a question. Says in a 12-team full PPR, we've got Daniel Jones or Jacoby Brissett this week. In regards to quarterback play, I think it is, as of right now, just a safe play weekly just to roll with Jacoby Brissett. The volume of passing attempts and the volume of success he has found over the course of this season has pretty much secured him to be a not starter, but a backup quarterback for however long he would like to be in the remainder of his NFL career. He is balling out. So Jacoby Brissett is my suggestion there as of this week. Since I've got JT and McBride starting, yeah, in terms of just the way I want to go about it, I'll take the easier matchup between the two. Brissett is the answer. Need an RB2, wide receiver 2, and flex between Aaron Jones, Zach Charbonnet. We have Wando Robinson and Michael Wilson. Yeah, as of right now, in a full PPR scoring format, I'm going to sit Charbonnet. I'll play everybody else. I think Aaron Jones is the justifiable RB2. I think Michael Wilson's the automatic wide receiver 2, and Wando Robinson, just purely off of the volume of targets he saw last week in a very heavy weather game, and now has an opportunity of taking on an easier secondary matchup in a game in which Jameis Winston has even more comfortability starting. Wando Robinson's your flex. So again, AJ, Michael Wilson, Wando. Thank you. Dan Seck sends in a question. Dan, hope you're doing well. Since I have Darnold this week with Shuck, okay, Bryce, and other lower end options out there on the waivers, Darnold should be cut, but I have Burrow and Knicks out. Who's the best upside? I think Darnold is the best upside. Again, when your team currently has an implicated Vegas total of, let me see what the total of this game is. Let's go pull this up real quick just so we have if the link wants to open. Either way, they're 13.5 point favorites. So whenever you're a 2 touchdown favorite in a game against that Tennessee defense and the total of the game is at 40.5, I would assume this game is going to be an absolute blowout. To which, if they're already indicating that the Seattle Seahawks are going to score 4 touchdowns as a team, I'd like to assume that 2 of them come off the hand of Sam Darnold minimum, if not potentially more. So in this circumstance, in comparison to a Tyler Shuck or a Bryce Young, I do believe that Darnold is the safer play of the bunch. If I had to order them, I would go Darnold 1, Bryce Young 2, Shuck 3 as of this week in regards to who I'm starting. Thank you. TPD45, thank you very much, says, even if Jacobs is healthy, do I play him? I think you should. In the event in which he's healthy, you got to remember that this is a tough son of a gun. Earlier this season, he had a calf injury on a Friday, ended up still playing the game and scoring 13 fantasy points and a half PPR and continuing his streak of scoring a rushing touchdown. So in this circumstance, yes, if he in fact is healthy, he is going to be in my lineup, absolutely. Now, in comparison to the alternatives of which you have, says, if so, who should I bench out of Jefferson, Jaylen Warren, and Stephon Diggs? In terms of, let me see what I'm actually very curious now. I know that obviously Jaylen Warren is going to play. I want to know what his final practice status was. Full participation on Friday, coming off of the ankle. Again, against a defense that majority of their linebacker play is going to be at risk of not really having much experience there. Primarily because, if I go pull this up real quick, let's go pull up their defense. Yeah, in terms of their primary starting linebackers this week are legitimately guys that play primarily special teams. They've got an entire their backer crew here is just going to be all special teams guys, considering their starters are out. So if we are potentially looking in the direction of sitting Jaylen Warren, I don't know if that's the best play, but in this circumstance, genuinely, okay, so here's the thing. I think I have to play Jacobs. I would pair him alongside of Diggs for sure. Then it just becomes a matter of, am I playing Jefferson or Jaylen Warren? To which I think I'd rather play Jaylen Warren if it's a half PPR standard. If it's a full PPR, I could justify playing Jefferson. I just don't love the matchup, nor do I love the potential play at which we have seen from JJ McCarthy of late. So if it's me, I probably sit Jefferson, genuinely. And as crazy as that sounds, he probably now scores 40 points because you sit him. So at that point, you have to do a little bit of reverse psychology on the fantasy gods and then just last second swap him in. But in this case, yeah, I would probably play Jacobs, or I would probably rank Jacobs, Warren, and Diggs ahead of Jefferson, assuming it's like a half. In a full, again, I could justify playing Jefferson over Warren just purely off of potential. Thank you. Carson Hughes sends in a question, says, for RB2, flex, and wide receiver 2, who do I start between A.J. Brown, Zay Flowers, Alvin Kamara, Emmanuel Wilson, and Sean Tucker. Okay, so Emmanuel Wilson's not going to really be the guy because, again, Josh Jacobs is most likely going to play. So if I'm looking for a wide receiver 2 in this circumstance, let's go ahead. Let me pull these rankings I have from this week. Where do I have? Is it a full PPR? It doesn't say. Okay, so let's just assume in this case it's not. I'm going to play A.J. Brown there over Zay Flowers. So I'll take A.J. Brown as my wide receiver 2. In regards to my RB2, I'm going to play Alvin Kamara there. And then in regards to my flex, considering you're taking on the Jets, I think there is a justifiable position to roll with Zay Flowers, but only in a full PPR. If it's a half PPR, you play Sean Tucker there. So it's A.J. Brown and Kamara for sure. If it's a full PPR, give me Zay in the flex. Otherwise, just give me Sean Tucker. Thank you. Mike Shores, 9608, sends it a question. Says, half PPR, Michael Wilson or Emmanuel Wilson? I'm assuming Jacobs is going to be playing. Again, he's trying to play every single time out, regardless of whether he's healthy or injured. So expect for Michael Wilson to probably be your start because Jacobs is going to be active. In the event in which we do get information regarding Jacobs not being active, okay, potentially that comes to fruition. At that point, I could justify just playing Emmanuel Wilson. Thank you. Moving on to, all right, Shahir sends in a question, says in a half PPR, I need a flex option out of this week. I currently have Shaheed at my flex, and I was wondering if you would rather go with A.D. Mitchell, Greg Dortch, or Chimere DK. Okay, so as of this week, so I do feel a little bit more confident in playing someone like Greg Dortch, number 1, and Chimere DK, number 2. I don't feel the most confidence playing A.D. Mitchell outright over Shaheed, but I could see the logic in it. But for right now, if it's me, I probably end up rolling Dortch in this circumstance. As for your question, says also, want to have my defensive matchup set up for next couple weeks. Currently have the Rams and 49ers defense, and I'm wondering if those two can take me to the playoffs. Chargers defense is also available. Okay, now in regards to this question, I have to look at the overall upcoming schedules for a lot of these teams. It's a kind of a little bit of a... Here's the thing. Because the NFL is always changing, I can tell you right now, oh yeah, I feel comfortable playing this defense, and then one player gets injured or another player gets back into the lineup, and then all of a sudden everything changes in regards to who I want to be starting. So just looking at purely the schedules ahead here for these 3 defenses. So we have the Rams here, who's upcoming. Okay, let me look at the Chargers here. They have Las Vegas, Philly, Kansas City, Dallas, and Houston. I don't want to play the Chargers defense. Not really interested. Outside of that Las Vegas game, not really too interested. Then looking at the Rams, they get Carolina, the Arizona Cardinals, Detroit, Seattle, Atlanta. So I would like them against Carolina and Arizona, and I honestly wouldn't mind them against Seattle again and Atlanta. So therefore, the next 5 games, pretty solid. But in the first round of the fantasy playoffs against Detroit, not really a viable option in that circumstance, but could theoretically roll it. I mean, then again, at that point, I'd probably go and pick up a defense like Tampa Bay and roll them against Atlanta in that given week. But in regards to the 49ers defense, you can't start them. In no circumstance can you start 49ers defense. I understand the matchups they have, but they have just been so bad at football because of all the injuries that they have unfortunately encountered. The Rams is the play for the rest of the season. Thank you. Nathan Gutierrez sends in a question. Nathan, thank you very much. Okay, of trade deadline. Actually, no, let me see full context. My goodness, brother, you've been spamming today, huh? Nathan, just take it easy, brother. I'll get to your question. 4 and 7. Running back is Jones, Hunt, Stevenson, Hubbard. Wide receivers are Rashee Rice, Williams, I'm assuming Jameson Williams, Mooney, Myers, Lockett, Gadsden, Freiermuth are my tight ends, and Mahomes and Brissett are my quarterbacks. What you said, the trade, I traded Drake, Gadsden, and Myers for A.J. Brown, Hunter Henry, and Davis. I'm so confused as to who... Hold up, give me a second. I don't know who you mean by Davis. I don't know what Davis I would have told you to trade for. It doesn't make any sense to me. By the way, I told you to trade Drake London, Gadsden, and Myers for A.J. Brown and Hunter Henry and Davis. I mean, genuinely, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if I I mean, it depends who Davis is. Like, I understand as of right now, obviously you don't have Gadsden and you don't have Drake London playing for you this week. But what you got in return is so little in comparison to what you just gave away that I probably would have just sacked my team and I'd have just taken the L. Because right now you probably just gave somebody a championship by giving them these two players. I don't know who that is. So this makes it a little bit difficult to be able to kind of figure out what's going on here. Like in terms of your team as a whole, like Jones and Hunt, I mean, really you only have one starter here. If Pacheco comes back, you're in a little bit of trouble. But then again, until then, you still have two starters here as of this week. Rashee Rice and Jamar are great. Hunter Henry as your starting tight end's okay, as for only this week. And then, of course, you're going to start Mahomes every week outright. So bringing in A.J. Brown this week to kind of play in your flex, it's going to help. Bringing in Hunter Henry is going to help. I just don't know who this Davis fellow is. Thank you. G Medina 37-17 says in a half PPR Purdy or Dak. I would rather play Purdy. I don't want to play Dak against that Eagles over someone like Purdy who takes on Carolina. Says full PPR Swift or Jennings. Ooh, as of right now, do I want to play Juwan Jennings over DeAndre Swift? No, I'm going to play Swift there. Thank you. Moving on to Bob France, who says, do I trade Tet for London? I'm already in playoff. If you're willing to take the risk and you understand what it's what can potentially happen along the way here with his knee, if you understand the risk that is involved, then sure. I think that there is a good likelihood in which even if he misses next week, if you're already in the playoffs, all you need him is for week 15 through 17, and by that point, you'll be fine. So yeah, I'm willing to do it. Adam Amar sends in a question. Adam, thank you. Says, I have Drake May, Baker, Jamar, Diggs, Olave, Bijan, Harvey, Benson, Algier, Singletary, Houston's defense, Falcons defense, 7-4 moves to make. Was thinking Bijan for Higgins and Chase Brown. Any other thoughts? If you can make that trade, I'd do it. I'd be willing to move Bijan for Higgins and Chase Brown. To which, at this point, for the remainder of your season, you might have too many Bengals at that point associated. At that point, I don't know if it's even necessary. Let me think about this. You have Jamar Chase, Diggs, Olave. You have Bijan, Harvey, Benson. If you're playing in a double flex format to which you can start Jamar, Diggs, Olave, Higgins, and then play Harvey and Chase Brown next to each other, then yes, I'd make that trade. Otherwise, I don't know if there's an absolute necessity to have to trade for the entire Bengals offense, because if Joe Burrow maybe gets shut down, maybe at that point, the record starts to slide. They're like 3-10 by one point in the season, and then you get to the fantasy playoffs, and they're like, all right, well, T. Higgins has got a hamstring. He doesn't want to play anymore. Like, there could be a reality of that. So it's a little bit risky there. In the event in which it is a double flex format, then yes, I'd be willing to make that move. Thank you. Alrighty, let's see here. Kodiak sends it a question. Says, now that Bucky's out, flex Watson or Tucker in a half PPR. I really do like the matchup for Christian Watson this week, but if it's my team, I'm probably ending up just playing Sean Tucker in this circumstance. Thank you. Especially, yeah, if it's a half PPR, I think Sean Tucker is the correct play. Min, what's up? Says, I have Puka. I'm in second place right now. I got offered the eighth place Puka for Jamar Chase straight up. Okay. I have Burrow. He wants Sean Tucker or Charbonnet on top. I have CMC, but my RB2 room is weak. Worth the trade for the stack? No. In the case of this circumstance, they're asking for too much. You're literally giving the 8th place team a way to survive this week, and they're saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to spit in your face by asking for more. I think they're going beyond their means. The reality is, in order for them to survive, they have to win. So just be like, all right, sounds good. You can go ahead and keep Jamar Chase and miss the playoffs. Like, that's just the reality of it. If they think they can win without Jamar Chase this week, so be it. At this point, I'm not willing to go out there and overpay when I can get Christian McCaffrey and Sean Tucker to help me keep winning this week and get me that first round bye. Like, at this point, I don't think it's a necessity. So for now, I'd probably just keep it. Because I think giving Puka for Jamar Chase straight up 1-for-1 is an appropriately equal trade. Giving anything on top of that at that point is just not necessary. I think it's just overpaying for the position, especially when you're saying your RB2 is weak. you can't give Charbonnet. You would have to give Sean Tucker in this circumstance. And if anything was to ever happen to Bucky and he goes back to being injured, you'd have the keys to the kingdom for the fantasy playoffs. As throughout weeks 15 through 17, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers schedule consists of Atlanta, Carolina, and Miami, which again are 3 great running back matchups. Thank you. All right, continuing on, we had a question that came in from, at Fireman 4175 says, should I start Baker or Brissett? I think genuinely I'd rather play Jacoby Brissett. I think Jacoby Brissett has just been far too good right now of late for me to ignore that and to go in any other direction. In a 6-point per passing touchdown league, in the event in which Baker really has one of those 3 tutty games, great. But otherwise, I think there's a higher likelihood of rushing touchdowns being taken by a Sean Tucker rather than a Bam Knight in this circumstance. So I'll go with Brissett there. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Style sends in a question. Says, in a full PPR, start Trey Tucker, Tez Johnson, or Dortch. As of this week, with Chris Godwin coming back, do I want to outright play Tez Johnson over the bunch? I think it's between. I don't really love playing Trey Tucker. I don't think his opportunity share is plentiful enough for me to be like, oh, I have to play him every single outing. It's just the other 2 options are just, they're unknown commodities to an extent. Like Tez Johnson, now that Chris Godwin is theoretically back in the lineup against the LA Rams, becomes a little bit of a sketchier play per se. In regards to Greg Dortch, again, when they threw the ball 57 times last week, he only had 6 targets, right? So it becomes even sketchier there. So as much as I don't like the idea of playing Trey Tucker, I think he probably is the best play of the bunch in a full PPR. To which it would go Trey 1, Tez Johnson 2, Dortch 3. D-Man35 says, in a must-win full PPR, I need upside. I need 2 between Sean Tucker, Bashaw Tootin, Luther Burden, and Bam Knight. That's a really good question. I think of these available, I think Sean Tucker is the automatic. Then it just becomes a matter of like, can we expect to see Luther Burden make a single play down the sideline for a 50-yard receiving touchdown? If he does, he ends up being the play. But again, in any of those kind of scenarios, it could end up being instead of him catching the 50-yard touchdown, it's a defensive pass interference. Like there's always the possibility, or he catches the ball and then he gets pushed out of bounds, right? And he doesn't end up getting that touchdown. So the excess variables that will be required for him to be able to outscore the potential volume of touches that players such as Bashaw Tootin and or Bam Knight will be exposed to, I think makes it very difficult to start him in that circumstance. Etienne's shoulder makes it a little bit more enticing to maybe go with a Bashaw Tootin here. So if it's my team, I'd probably just roll with Tootin there alongside of Sean Tucker. Thank you. Christopher Franco says 3932 says, start Watson, Yoshi, or Mooney. As of right now, I'd go with Christian Watson. And then my number 2 option would be Mooney. Number 3 would be Yoshi. Thank you. Michael Gonzalez, thank you very much. Says Sam Darnold or Jordan Love in a 4-point per passing touchdown format. Thanks. Here's the thing. I think Jordan Love is sketchy, but is he too sketchy to play in comparison? The thing is, like, their offensive line has been so bad, and the amount of blitz pressure is going to be sent in his direction begins to kind of make me a little bit more cautious with his potential. I think if it's my team, I probably roll Sam Darnold. In the event in which tomorrow Josh Jacobs is inactive, I would just play Jordan Love. Thank you. All right, let's see here. Pryor, 2610, says, good afternoon, Andrew. One more win to clinch the playoffs this week, Aaron Jones or Alvin Kamara? That's a really good question. In regards to the potential of them, I think it depends on scoring format, but then technically, based on the volume of opportunity that Alvin Kamara's gotten in the receiving category, it hasn't been plentiful enough for me to like outright say, oh yeah, it needs to be one over the other, just like outright. But if it's my team, I'm thinking to myself as of right now, the consistency of play we have recently seen from Aaron Jones leads me to believe that he should be the play. Let me see here. It's a full PPR. Okay. Do I want to? Let me see here. What is the overall target opportunity of late, real quick? Three, 2, 3. And then Kamara obviously has not been seeing much of any of opportunity. If it's my team, I probably just play Aaron Jones there. against his former team, that is the better play. Even in a full PPR, even though typically I would lean towards Kamara, nothing that he has done with Shuck in the receiving game convinces me to play him. Thank you. Anthony C5525 says, Diggs, Devontae Smith, Rashee Rice start 2 full PPR. As of this moment, I probably end up playing Rice and Diggs. I think many people are afraid of the DJ Turner matchup for the Cincinnati Bengals, but may I add that I think there's only been 22 snaps in which DJ Turner has followed a wide receiver and played nickel. So it's very seldom in which it has occurred, and I don't think Diggs is going to see a lot of DJ Turner in this circumstance, considering Kayshon Boutte is back, and Diggs is going to be primarily functioning within the slot. So Diggs and Rice will be my suggestion there. Thank you. I see you, Mark sends it a question. Says, in a full PPR, start 1, running back 1 flex between Breece Hall, Alec Pierce, ETN, and Tootin. Of these available, I think it might be in your best interest to just genuinely encapsulate the entire backfield of Jacksonville, to whichever way this goes and whoever steals those touchdowns ends up being the most valuable. To which I think if you wanted to go ahead and just be safe, I think my suggestion is go ETN and Tootin there. If you wanted to be a little bit more risky, then you just play ETN alongside of Alec Pierce. But I wanted to check really quickly. I'm pretty sure Devontae Smith is the Cowboys killer, right? Like earlier this season obviously didn't do much, but over the course of his career, he has been absolutely deadly against Dallas. Yeah, like last season I had a 27-point game against them. Actually, no, he hasn't even been. He's been very inconsistent against Dallas. It's just up and down. Well, I mean, that's just the passing for the Eagles. So yeah, no, let's keep it with Diggs and Rice here. As of right now, again, if you're going for like high upside and you need to be able to kind of amass a lead in which you believe you're going to require, I think Alec Pierce ETN is the play. Otherwise, if we're just rolling with the safety of just encapsulating the entire backfield, I think the value there is pretty sufficient to be able to justify it. Thank you. All right. Bakani sends it a question. It says Juwan Johnson or Rashad White. I would rather play Juwan Johnson. Thank you. Jimbo Fisher sends it a question. It says pick one. Jacoby Myers, Darnell Mooney, Xavier Worthy, or Tremere DK. For now, I would go with Darnell Mooney, number 1. I'd go with Jacoby Myers, 2. I'd go with DK, 3. And I'd go with Worthy, 4. So yeah, Mooney's my number 1 in this circumstance and a half PPR. Thank you. Brewhand, 11, says in a half PPR, 1 wide receiver and 1 flex between Tez Johnson, Kayshon Boutte, Andre Yoshivas, Bayshal Tootin, and Sean Tucker. Andre Yoshivas is going to be the wide receiver I roll with this week. As for the flex, I'm going to go with Sean Tucker in this circumstance. Thank you. Tom510 says, starting Bijan and Javonte as my RB1 and 2. Starting Higgins and Pickens as my wide receiver 1 and 2. Do I flex Kamara, Dobbs, Pearsall, or Slayton? Leaning Kamara. I would have to agree with you on that. I would play Kamara as well. In a positive/neutral game script against that Atlanta defense, I think that is the most appropriate play of what you have available to you. Thank you. Mr. Hockeyman 1998 says, happy Saturday. Questions in the chat. Thank you. Full PPR. Would you play Sean Tucker over Kareem Hunt? I think I probably would, yes. Any concern about Josh Jacobs having fewer snaps if he plays? He will have fewer snaps. There is concern, but I'm still going to start him over. Like, he's going to be in the top 15 running back rankings, right? He's probably not going to be where he typically is, which is a top 5 to 7 running back. So he's going to be diminished in his overall opportunity share, but I do believe he could very easily come away with his normal 60 rushing yards, a 1 rushing touchdown, maybe a couple of sprinkles of receiving workload. Relatively unlikely there, but I think he could very easily, break 12 fantasy points within the given week. So even with the limited nature, I think the volume of opportunity he will be distributed, which if we go back to earlier this season in the game in which he was dealing with a calf injury, they had a very limited deployment of him in terms of how many opportunities they exposed him to. Let me go back to this game. Yeah, earlier this season in that game against Pittsburgh, limited touches, had himself 33 rushing yards on 13 attempts. And then obviously because Pittsburgh's run stop defense was great, or has been great as of late. And then 3 catches for 12 yards, 1 rushing touchdown. So a total of 16 touches, 45 yards in a tutty. Not the greatest overall kind of effectiveness in terms of efficiency. But I think he'll be a little bit more efficient in this given week in comparison to that. But I think even in a game in which, again, he was coming off of a calf injury on Friday, still had 16 touches in the game. I think we shouldn't be expecting to sit Josh Jacobs if he's available. But in regards to Kareem Hunt versus Sean Tucker, again, I think it is justifiable to, if you want to roll Kareem Hunt for another consecutive game, you can. He is easily going to be in my top 20 running back rankings, maybe my number 18, maybe number 17 this week, considering I'm assuming he's going to fall into the end zone. I'm assuming he's going to break 10 fantasy points. I just feel like Sean Tucker just has a greater level of upside that he could reach while also having that safe, similar floor as a Kareem Hunt in this circumstance. And it says, would you start someone like Judkins or Chase Brown over him if he plays? I would still play Chase Brown over Josh Jacobs if he plays in a full PPR, because I do think that Chase Brown probably comes away with 5 receptions minimum this week. So whenever you're able to get yourself a touchdown worth of production just off of receptions alone minimum, I think that's justifiable to play him over Jacobs. But I wouldn't play Judkins over Jacobs, even if, Jacobs is at a limited capacity. Thank you. Carlos, what's up? Says, yo, Andrew, what's up? I need 1 wide receiver, 2 running backs, and 1 flex and a half PPR. We have Tedero, McMillan. We have, I'm assuming Wilson's going to be Michael Wilson. Then we have Dobbs, K9, Genty, Judkins, and Hendo. Okay, so Hendo is your auto-started RB. That's just a given. Alongside of Hendo, okay, so there is a potential in which we could play Genty. I just don't like it, guys. I'm going to be honest. I think Genty against, their offensive line is so bad. Like, genuinely, it's just like, can the Raiders do anything of an appropriate kind of position to give him the chances he needs to succeed? We're hoping so. I think if the receiving utilization's there this week, he probably ends up being fine, but it is sketchy. If Kenneth Walker had scored 2 weeks in a row of a touchdown, I would tell you to outright play him, and it's not even close. For now, because again, there is a receiving upside that Genty provides. Do I still feel confident on the matter? I will say I don't feel confident on it. I think I'm not willing to risk it that hard to where I'm going to outright play Kenneth. But for now, I'm just going to go Hendo and Genty. I'm considering about playing Kenneth Walker there over Genty. As for your wide receiver, if you need one of them, I'm going to play Tedero, and then in the flex position, I'm going to play Michael Wilson. So Hendo, Genty, T-Mac, Wilson, and then I'm considering K9 over Genty. What would flip my mind on it? Genuinely, it's just I'd have to wake up and feel like I'm choosing violence on Sunday morning. Otherwise, I'd probably just keep it with Genty. Andrew Mitchell says, hey, Andrew, please rank these players this week in a standard with 6-point bonus at 100 yards. Brown, Swift, Hall, Diggs, Tet, Pickens. You're the best. Thank you. All right, so when you say Brown, I'm assuming you mean A.J. Brown, correct? Because, that's not what I wanted. Because it could technically be Chase Brown, because you mentioned your running backs to begin here. So I'm going to assume it's Chase Brown, in fact, because of the way in which you ordered the names in your question. Okay. So in this circumstance, if I was going to rank these in order with a standard 0 points per reception format, the way in which I would go about it, I'd go with Chase Brown number 1. Actually, wait, you have Pickens in there and Tet. Oh my, and Diggs. Okay, let me think about this for a second. Standard scoring format, purely off of yardage, no receptions. We need touchdown upside as well. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. Considering that 100-yard bonus, is it 100 total yard bonus? If it is 100 total yard bonus, and so what I mean by that is rushing and receiving combined. It doesn't have to be within one singular line of stat. If that is in fact the case, I would play Chase Brown as the number 1, Tet as number 2, Pickens 3, Diggs 4, Swift 5, Hall 6. In the event in which you do not get a combined rushing and receiving yard total to contribute to it, then at that point, I would just probably end up playing Tet number 1, Chase 2, Pickens 3, Diggs 4, Swift 5, Hall 6. Thank you, Andrew Mitchell. Denial 3952 says PPR pick 2, Tucker, Kamara, AJ Brown, Warren. Of these available full PPR, do I feel outright mega comfortable rolling AJB there? Not technically, but I think it is justifiable. I think I heard something about Kaiir Elam today. Let me see here. Kaiir Elam. What is the news? They waived Kyrie Elam. Yeah, like that. As of right now, of the available options you've gone ahead and presented here, I think I end up playing A.J. Brown and Jaylen Warren. Thank you. Anthony O, 5123 says, in a 12-man full PPR, Aaron Jones or Sean Tucker? I would prefer to play Aaron Jones in this circumstance. Thank you. Emily Doyle says, hi, Andrew. I have 6 wide receivers and 4 running backs, including Hampton and Jacobs. Should I drop Sean Tucker, Darius Slayton, or Ricky Pearsall for Bam Knight, Michael Carter, or Bashaw Tutin? I'm PPR 7 and 4. As of right now, I would say that it, unless you plan on playing Darius Slayton at all rest of season, I think it's probably justifiable to drop him in order to pick up Bashaw Tutin. Because I think the value which Tutin could provide in the case in which you do have the potential of Etienne having a bum shoulder, re-aggravating said injury, and then maybe missing time, the upcoming schedule and having the handcuff to that backfield and or a two-headed monster potential contributor is really, I think, in my opinion, justifiable. Considering Trey Tucker is going to disappear probably after this week with Bucky Irving expected to return against Arizona, I think unless you plan on ever playing Slayton, who has an upcoming bye as well, I think Tutin is the more justifiable roster position going forward. Even with Hampton and Jacobs and all this kind of jazz, I think just in case having Tutin, if anything happens to ETN, or if this backfield continues to trend towards a two-headed monster to where Tutin is going to be the primary goal line back, all that kind of jazz, then yes, I think that is the right decision to make. All right, Blue Jay sends in a question. Thank you very much. Says, my league mates say it's lopsided. I feel like I'm losing this deal. Andrew, I'm 9-2. I traded Judkins and ETN for Saquon. RBs would be Saquon, Hampton, Kyron, Corum, Spears. Do you think it's veto worthy? No, that's not veto worthy at all. Not even close to being veto worthy. My league mates say it's lopsided, but I feel like I'm losing the deal. I think you are losing the deal to an extent, because if Saquon Barkley doesn't show up in the fantasy playoffs for you, you've just basically rinsed your team of running back depth. Because ultimately you're relying upon Hampton coming back healthy and being of any semblance of what he was earlier this year and not being in a committee. And then outside of, Kyron Williams here, you have Corum and Spears who really are not very justifiably startable. So in this circumstance, I think it is a perfectly fair trade. The fact that your league says it's lopsided, they just haven't been watching football this year. Saquon is not 2024 Saquon. This is a different version of Saquon. This is one that's not scoring 30 points a week. So maybe if they want to recheck the numbers, they can go ahead and reevaluate, because purely as of late, ETN has just been the better running back than Saquon. In fact, this season, I'm pretty sure ETN has more fantasy points than Saquon. Let me confirm this. ETN this season is RB 12 overall and a half PPR. Saquon is RB 11. They have almost identical volume of points, to which, again, when you're giving Judkins on top of it, it's justifiable. Thank you. Juan Vaca Ramirez says, pick 2 in a full PPR, Worthy, Parker, Slayton, Tucker, Yoshivas. It's a really good question. In a full PPR scoring format, I think the 2 most favorable wide receivers of this group would be Yoshivas and Parker. I think, am I going to play both of them? Most likely not. If it's my team, I probably go Tucker and Yoshivas. I like the idea of playing. No, it's Trey Tucker. It's not Sean Tucker. My apologies. So in this case, I would play Yoshivas alongside of Parker Washington. Those would be the 2 that I play. Number 3 would be Slayton. Number 4 would be Tucker. Number 5 would be Worthy. But Yoshivas in Washington, Parker Washington will be my number 1 and 2. Thank you. Dior Kev sends in a question. Dior, thank you. Full PPR wide receivers are JSN, Jamar Chase, Ricky Pearsall, Michael Wilson, Devontae Adams. Running backs are Devon Achane, Aaron Jones, Trey Benson, Bam Knight. My tight ends are Theo Johnson and Cade Otton. My quarterbacks are Jacoby Brissett, T-Law, and JJ McCarthy. Should I trade Adams for Barkley? I would say in a full PPR, do I want to trade Devontae Adams for Saquon Barkley? Here's the reality, right? In the case in which you make this trade, the level at which Saquon will have to play effectively in a full PPR capacity is he's going to have to put up 15 to 20 points per game, which I think he's certainly capable of accomplishing that. When I look at the upcoming schedule for Devontae Adams in that fantasy playoff stretch, Detroit, Seattle, Atlanta, again, I could justify making that trade. If you're playing in a league where it's not a triple wide receiver start, so where it's 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex, I could justify the position in which I move Devontae Adams, and which in my fantasy playoff stretch, I have Devon Achane, Saquon, JSN, Jamar Chase, and then I'm flexing either Aaron Jones or, Michael Wilson, Ricky Pearsall. I'm okay with that trade. That works for me. Thank you. All right, let's scroll back up here. We had a question that came in from Angelo, who says non-PPR, 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs in a flex between Bijan, Chase Brown, Diggs, AJ Brown, DK Metcalf, Jalen Warren, Zach Charbonnet, and Gainwell. Okay, so in a double running back, double wide receiver, 1 flex format, you have to play Bijan. And I think in terms of the rest of your running backs, you have to play Chase Brown. Even in a non-PPR, I think it's still well worth it. Now, in regards to your wide receiver play, AJ Brown and Diggs are got to be the 1 and 2. And then within the flex, I'm rolling with Jalen Warren there. So DK's the odd man out. Thank you. Soul Assassin sends out a question. Says, I need 2 between Pittman, Adunze, Ibuka, and JMO. Yeah, as of right now, for my team, I would play Ibuka and JMO. I think those are your 2 most favorable potential plays and starts of the week. So I would go Ibuka 1, JMO 2, Adunze 3, Pittman 4. Running backs, Javonte Williams, Judkins, Kenneth Walker. Who do I flex in a full PPR? So if I was going to flex a player, it would probably end up being Adunze. So to which in this case, I would play Javonte number 1. I would play Kenneth Walker as my RB2. And then I would play Ibuka, JMO, and Adunze as my 2 wide receivers in flex. Thank you, Assassin. Adam Amar sends out a follow-up questions in the chat. All right. It says Drake May. Okay, so this is the second question. Drake May, Baker Mayfield, Jamar, Diggs, Olave, Burden, Bijan, Harvey, Benson, Algier, Singletary, Houston. Okay, so this is the team. I was thinking about, okay, and Ferguson's at tight end. Okay, yeah, this is the same question. So yeah, I had answered this earlier. Maybe you weren't here to potentially see it. In regards to which way I would go about this, potentially moving a Bijan for Higgins and Chase Brown. The primary thing that I asked you was, are you playing in a league in which you can start 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 2 flex? If you can, then I make this trade. If you can't, then I think maybe we're putting too many eggs in the Cincinnati Bengals basket. I think at that point, we could justify it being a little bit too many eggs in that basket, per se. To which I'd be just comfortable keeping what you have. But if you wanted to make this trade and you do play in a double running back, double wide receiver, double flex league, then yeah, let's make the move. Thank you. Bless me, thank me. Okay. Continuing on. We had a question that came in from James King, 4577. Says full PPR. 12-man, Dortch, Godwin, Tez, pick one for... Okay, in a full PPR scoring format, I will probably end up having Tez Johnson ranked the highest of the bunch. So it'll be Tez number 1, Dortch 2, Godwin 3. Thank you. Shahir says thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Luis says in a question, says in a flex, half PPR, Pierce, Warren, Emmanuel Wilson. Pierce, Warren, Emmanuel Wilson. Only in the event in which Josh Jacobs is out does Emmanuel Wilson get the start. Otherwise, if it's between Jalen Warren and Alec Pierce, I'll just take Jalen Warren there. Thank you. Tommy Gunn, what's up? Says, hey, boss. Start Sean Tucker or Tootin in the flex. As of right now, between the 2 of them, I'll lean towards playing Sean Tucker. It says, I have Chase Brown and Judkins as my RB1 and 2. Genty, Bucky, and Monangai on the bench. As of right now, if it's my team, I probably just go like Chase Brown, Genty, Sean Tucker. But in the event in which you are playing Judkins over Genty, unless this is a completely different question. No, this is a completely different question. Yeah, so Chase Brown and, I mean, I'd probably play Genty there as the RB2, but if you think Cleveland's winning tomorrow, then that's fine. But yeah, Sean Tucker over Tootin for sure. Thank you. Paul Allen sends in a question. Says, start Flacco, Jameis, or Bryce Young in a 4-point per passing touchdown league. As of right now, the way in which I have it ranked would be Jameis 1, Flacco 2, Bryce Young 3. Says, and for my flex, Tez Johnson, Yoshi Voss, or Leggett, I would go with Yoshi probably. Yeah, Yoshi 1, Tez 2, Leggett 3. All right, Dylan White sends in a question. Says, full PPR, who should I start as my RB2? Judkins, Tootin, or Sean Tucker? Don't feel great about the Browns offense. Neither do I. I would suggest playing Sean Tucker in this group. Thank you. Stephen Drake, 7793, says, hey, brother. Half PPR in the flex. Tyler Warren, Bam Knight, Michael Wilson. It's Michael Wilson. I think Tyler Warren is an incredible player. He should probably start every week. But in this case, in which we have no Marvin Harrison against Jacksonville in a positive or potentially negative game script, Michael Wilson's the start. Thank you. Baylock sends in a question. Oh, sorry. It's not Baylock. It's Balake. Hey, Aaron. Says, I'm 9-2 in a full PPR. Double wide receiver, double running back, 1 tight end, 1 flex. I had Allen go. I've got Javonte Williams, Lamb, Diggs, Tyler Warren, Rome Odunze, Sean Tucker, Mike Wilson, Alec Pierce, Jennings. Who do I play? Okay, so in regards to what we're playing, in terms of the double running backs, Javonte Williams and Jonathan Taylor are your best 2 options. So therefore, those should be your 2 starts this week. In regards to wide receivers, I think you have it correct in going Diggs and Lamb. Actually, no, it's... Well, okay, so we can get to the flex there in a second. To which you're playing Tyler Warren at tight end. Oh, wow. Okay. So let's rewind this. In this circumstance, I would genuinely sit Diggs and I would play Michael Wilson, Rome Odunze, and Lamb as your two wide receivers and one flex. To which then you put JT and Javonte Williams, and then of course you have Tyler Warren. So Diggs actually is getting benched in this circumstance. If you can't live with that, then again, you sit Michael Wilson or Rome Odunze, who I do believe I have ranked as my number 12 and 13, and then I think I had Diggs as my number 14 or 15. So yeah, they're all incredibly close within the rankings, but I do prefer Michael Wilson, Rome Odunze in that circumstance. Thank you. All right, let's see here. 1800 says, full PPR Pitts / Theo Johnson / Taysom Hill, Chigozimo Okonkwo, Hawkinson, or Taylor. Of these available options, I think your best bet is probably going in the direction of Kyle Pitts because of the full PPR format. And earlier this season, in the game in which we had Kirk Cousins starting and no Drake London in the lineup, which will be the exact same environment this week, he had 9 receptions against the Miami Dolphins. I think Kyle Pitts is probably the logical play there in a full PPR. Thank you. Caleb Hamilton says, what's up, brother? Posted the question in the chat. Thank you, Caleb. Full PPR, I need a flex. I have Yoshivas, Loveland, Monungai, and Spears, Emmanuel Wilson, and Ramondre on the waivers. Who should I go with this week? In the event in which starting 2 and RB2. Okay, perfect. So in the event in which Josh Jacobs doesn't play tomorrow, then you could play Emmanuel Wilson. Otherwise, I do believe that Andre Yoshivas is your correct play of the available mentioned players here. Thank you, Caleb. All right, let's see here. Blazed, actually. Says, start 2 in the flex. DK, Diggs, Sean Tucker. I would genuinely play Diggs and Sean Tucker this week. I think DK Metcalf can certainly be a value, has to score a touchdown, has to be a guarantee. And in this circumstance, I actually trust Sean Tucker and currently have him projected to have a higher potential chance of scoring said touchdown there. So I'll go in that direction. Thank you. Cheeky sends in a question. Says, half PPR trade Jaylen Warren and Aaron Jones for Genty. Jaylen Warren and Aaron Jones for Genty? I don't know if I like that trade, to be honest. I mean, when I look at the upcoming schedule for the Las Vegas Raiders, and I look at that, just looking at the next couple weeks here, Los Angeles is an incredibly advantageous matchup. But then you have Denver, Philadelphia, Houston for weeks 14 through 16. To which I think to myself, in the fantasy playoffs, I have no interest in trying to play the Vegas Raiders offense against Philly, nor do I enjoy them playing against the Houston Texans. So in this circumstance, I don't like that trade too much. I think I'd rather have Jaylen Warren and Aaron Jones contributing to my roster rest of season. Even with all the depth of which you have, I would try to go after a different running back here in this circumstance. So if the potential is out there to which you could be trading for a running back of the caliber similar to an Ashton Genty or specifically somebody better, that's kind of what I would try to go after. If I can move players such as Aaron Jones and Jaylen Warren and go get it, Saquon Barkley, that would be the preferred ideal circumstance here. I'd go legitimately after Bucky Irving. What's another name that I could throw out that could theoretically be in that kind of range? Chase Brown, I'd go after. You already have Chase Brown? You already do. Okay. Outside of those kind of players, I think that pretty much encapsulates the grouping in which I would go after. There's no way someone's giving you Kyron. If you can, I'd go for that as well. If somebody wants to be careful with Josh Jacobs and they're dealing with his injury right now, I'd trade for that as well. But I'm not so keen on the idea of Genty there. Fantasy Forecast sends in a question. Says, did I make a mistake with this? I thought the upside of McBride made up for it, but I feel dumb. Okay, let's see here. I feel like I just made a mistake. I traded my Amon-Ra, Caleb Williams, and Ferguson for Roman McBride. I don't have an issue with this trade. I wanted an elite tight end, but this leaves me with only CeeDee Lamb, Rome Odunze, T. Higgins, and London. Brother, when you say only, if I had these 4 wide receivers in my main league, I'd be thinking I'm winning the league, genuinely. This being a quote-unquote only is, brother, that's a fantastic trade. I have no problem with it at all. I think, yes, losing Amon-Ra is certainly of a huge value piece there. But McBride is outscoring him by a huge volume. To which then you have Rome Odunze, who I do believe when we're looking at like Caleb and Ferg, I'd rather have Rome there. Contributing to this quad, group of wide receivers, like, brother, you are in a, I don't think you should feel dumb. I think this is a great position to be in. You're obviously going to start Brock rest of season up until his bye week in week 14. So when we get to week 14, again, there are going to be many of quarterback options in which you can look towards and maybe prepare for right now. But I'd say you made a good trade. I genuinely do, especially with the upcoming schedule ahead in which the Chicago Bears have. I don't mind what they have in terms of weeks 14 and beyond. So I'm cool with it. Thank you. All right. Medina, what's up? Says in a full PPR questions in the chat. Thank you. Says I have Herbert and Dart, so I need an emergency backup. Options are Flacco, Winston, Young, Cousins. I'd go with Winston there. Also for the flex, would you go with Stevenson, Yoshivas, or pick up Downs? I would play probably Yoshivas out of the group. Thank you. CJB44 says PPR, considering dropping Tez now that Godwin is back, between Downs or Tillman, take that spot. Brown SOS looks nice. Brown or Downs? So here's the overall situation. I don't think that Godwin's overall utilization would be at a full capacity. I think they're going to slowly integrate him, to which this week I do think that Tez Johnson is the correct place still in this circumstance. But in terms of rest of season purposes, I will agree that Downs will be the better option of the bunch. Thank you. But the Browns' rest of season schedule, it's purely just a matter of, can the quarterback play justify picking up a Browns wide receiver? Because of late, it hasn't been justifiable. So I do like their schedule of Tennessee, San Francisco, Chicago. But once you get to the fantasy playoffs, I don't think you're going to ever start a Browns receiver. So I don't think it's worth it. If it was me, I'd probably just go pick up Downs. Christopher Franco, if you were looking for rest of season, otherwise Tez is the preferred play this week. Christopher Franco says drop Keenan Allen, Deebo Samuel, Franklin, or Christian Watson for Tootin. If I was going to drop one of these wide receivers, genuinely, it would be Keenan Allen. I think his overall contributions and utilization of late has not been justifiably high enough for me to continue to, string him along in this circumstance. I think in a full PPR, he could be serviceable, but ultimately he's being outplayed by Franklin every single week. So Franklin will get his spot. Debo's been playing incredibly solid, even with the backup. If the starter shows up, he's great. And then Watson's getting a greater expansion here. So Keenan Allen's the drop. Knicks or Jacoby for rest of season or just this week? Because you know that Knicks is on a bye, right? I think if we're talking about rest of season purposes, I think it's a matter of like, do I want to play Bo Nix into those games within his schedule? Because the Vegas Raiders game is relatively solid. I mean, so he has Washington, Las Vegas Raiders. Then for the fantasy playoffs has Green Bay, Jacksonville, and Kansas City, to which I think against Green Bay and Jacksonville can be serviceable, if not more than, the better. I would say better than average. And then once you get to the Week 17 championship, look for probably a pivoting option. Playing against the Chiefs in Kansas City, I don't love it. So if it's me, keep them both on roster. Rest of season, who do I prefer? Genuinely, I'd probably prefer Jacoby Brissett because of what he has accomplished of late and the fact that I know that he's going to continue to throw the ball 40 to 50 times per game every week for the remainder of the season. Thank you. All right, we've effectively caught up on all of our super chats. I do appreciate you guys continuing to be patient in that regard. Again, we have been here for the last hour and 5 minutes, live streaming, answering questions for week 12. Again, tomorrow morning, I'll be live streaming here on the channel between the hours of 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. PST, like I typically do every single Sunday morning. These Sunday morning rankings will be on screen for interpositional rankings for running back, wide receiver, tight end, quarterback, kicker, and defense. So for those of you who want to go ahead and swing on by, you're more than welcome to. And additionally, on top of it, for those of you guys who want my all-encompassing rankings, besides for all those positions for both half and full PPR, including flex rankings, check out Betr. Of course, like I've mentioned before, when you sign up today using code Andrew, not only will you be able to get a free $10, but of course get a free couple picks going into the week, and of course, a couple discounted plays. Now, in regards to this weekend, a couple of the plays that I put forth, and I'll actually go ahead and potentially share them here. Let me go ahead. Let's go over those really quickly because I'm sure there are some of you that are curious. So yesterday at the end of the Hidden Gems episode, I put together a couple plays in regards to a couple Hidden Gems players, and additionally, let's go pull this up. Let's go here. Beautiful. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's pull this up now. So let's go here. Let's pull this up. I think it should be fine. So again, signing up today, free $10, gets a free play. Of course, has to be eligible based on your current location. But in regards to this weekend, oh, that's not the right one. I'm looking for this one. Okay, in regards to the plays that I put together. Okay, so the primary plays in which I liked this weekend, I've got a couple here. So we begin with Yoshivas going more than 37.5 receiving yards, Slayton more than 37.5 receiving yards, Mooney more than 45.5 receiving yards. Again, these are three of my hidden gems. Again, like I mentioned yesterday in my hidden gems episode in regards to the potential of their success for the given week, The reason why I feel so confident on the potential of them breaking these numbers, besides the fact that they're hidden gems, again, even if they're not able to be the greatest hidden gems, the ability to be able to surpass these numbers is relatively high considering their success rates of late. We've seen Andre Yoshivas over the course of his career in games in which he has had 7 targets minimum over the course of the last, I think it's 5 games with 7 targets just across the board. He's getting about, if I'm not mistaken, it was like 36 receiving yards minimum. So now that you have an opportunity in which there's no Jamar Chase out in that lineup, he's been able to surpass this number at a very consistent rate, to which his expansion of opportunity with 40-plus passing attempts from Joe Flacco should very easily be able to surpass that number, as he's also been able to accomplish it twice in the last 4 weeks. Then we talk about Darius Slayton, who over the course of his career in games in which he's had 7 targets or more, has been able to surpass it in 7 of the last 7, but also gone over that number or more than that number in 2 of the last 2 prior to the injury. And then Darnell Mooney in 10 of the last 12 starts with a full functioning Cousins, without Cousins being pulled, has been able to surpass that number in 10 of the last 12. Then I went ahead and just put together a potential risky play here for Andre Yoshivas scoring a touchdown. Again, like I mentioned, the New England Patriots over the course of the last 5 games have allowed 6 receiving touchdowns to opposing slot receivers, wide receivers, in fact. So Yoshivas as the primary slot could be in line, especially with in the last 6 games in which T. Higgins has missed a game with injury. Yoshivas has scored 5 receiving touchdowns in those 6 games, and we have Bayshaw Tootin potentially stealing a touchdown, because when I was watching back that Jacksonville game, oftentimes over the course of that game, Etienne would start the drive, and then Bayshaw Tootin would kind of come in to spell him later in the drive as they were getting down the field. And then by the time you're getting down the field, you're in the red zone, and then Tootin is stealing those opportunities down in the red zone. So certainly still some opportunity there. And then I went ahead and put together a play of Jameis Winston going more than 33.5 passing attempts. Again, indoors, expected to lose by 2 touchdowns. Going to throw the ball a bunch this week in comparison to running the ball 35 times with the running backs last week. Expect for that number from 29 to jump to 34 easily. Rome Odunze going more than 50.5 receiving yards. Again, like I've mentioned, he has been incredible against man coverage. The Steelers play exclusively man with 40%, which is one of the highest rates since week 6. And then we have Tyler Warren going more than 51.5%, as he has been able to go over 76 receiving yards in 3 of the last 4 against blitz-heavy teams. The only game in which he wasn't able to accomplish it was against the Steelers, in a game in which their offense turned over the ball 5 to 6 times. So against Kansas City, blitz-heavy, he is the clear and away security blanket. So those were the plays in which I put together for this weekend. Again, if there's plays that you guys have in mind that you're like, Andrew, got to look at this, there's a lot of potential here, you let me know, and I'm more than happy to take a look at it. But as of right now, what does it say? Gave up St. Brown for Rome, basically? That's incorrect. You're mistaken there, Jay Harris. He traded Amon-Ra for McBride. Right? In terms of the points that are being attributed to your roster, it is purely like McBride in a full PPR is absolutely running the table. 27 plus fantasy points, 3 of the last 4. So you're getting the upgrade from Amon-Ra to McBride, and then Jake Ferguson, again, since the return of CeeDee Lamb, has not been very much so of an impact play outside of scoring touchdowns. So moving from that to Rome Odunze, who Rome Odunze has an incredible upside for potential comparatively, is the way to go. Okay. What is it? Time to tune into the Ducks and USC. Catch you later. Have a good one, Billy Mack. Hi, Andrew. Would you start Jacoby or Godwin? I'd rather play Jacoby Myers. What does it say? Ashton Genty or Michael Wilson? Half PPR. I think I'd rather play Michael Wilson, to be honest. Should I trade Aaron Jones and Lamb for Chase Brown and McConkey? At this point, in a full PPR, am I willing to make that trade? It's so contingent on McConkey, because I think Chase Brown is definitely going to be a better contributor than Aaron Jones rest of the season. It's just, can McConkey compete with the potential of a CeeDee Lamb to the point to where it's justifiable to make a move of this capacity? Looking at their upcoming schedule ahead, Las Vegas, Philly, Kansas City, Dallas, Houston, I think it's there. I think there's a window. I just don't know if I love the play. Would you consider Travis Kelce to be a good upgrade from Jake Ferguson in a half PPR? Yes. I mean, just purely off of what Jake Ferguson's opportunity share has looked like of late, and then in terms of the overall contributions of success that he has found from his fantasy points, since CeeDee Lamb's return, we've been in a little bit of a bind here of late. So unfortunately, because of that bind of sorts, he's only getting himself, I mean, earlier on this year, he was on record or pace. He was on record pace to potentially break the record for the most receptions by a tight end in single season history. And then obviously since CeeDee Lamb has come back, he's gone back down to reality. So ultimately of late has just become one of those touchdown dependent tight ends, very similar to like a Mark Andrews, right? So it's not that he's not startable. He's just not going to be as viable for rest of season purposes. Kyron or Chase Brown, it depends on format. If we're talking about like a full PPR this week, I probably end up playing Chase Brown there. Half PPR, probably Kyron. DeMoth Smith sends in a question. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Says, sup, bro, in a full PPR, got to go Pickens, Diggs, Adunze, Jefferson, or Michael Wilson. As of those available options, the order at which I probably rank them would revolve around, I'm probably going like Wilson, Adunze, Diggs, Pickens, Jefferson. Which is crazy, but it's kind of the way that I have it projected. How do we feel about starting Pearsall after last week's performance? Again, we should know not to play players coming off of injury. We should know that. So playing Darius Slayton this week is probably really risky. Playing Chris Godwin is probably really risky. So in the case in which we were playing, effectively Ricky Pearsall last week, maybe not the greatest play of all time, maybe not the most wise decision from us. So in this case, I'm not worried about playing him this week. I think he's going to get enough utilization in opportunity share to where he should be the number one wide receiver going forward. Now, what I wanted to go ahead and do really quickly is in regards to today, there's a couple NBA plays that I like. I don't know if you guys watch a lot of college football. Maybe you guys have a play for me out there. But in regards to some of the plays, let me see. I wrote this down earlier. Okay, so have the game started? No, right? Okay, so Orlando, in terms of points, where is Desmond Bane? Desmond Bane's kind of been a monster of late. I'm going to go more than 20.5. Again, in regards to what he's been able to accomplish here. So obviously you guys remember this offseason. I don't know if you guys actually watch NBA. I watch pretty much a lot. But over the course of this offseason, they traded like 4 first-round picks for Desmond Bane. Of late, in terms of the 20-plus point category, he's been able to accomplish that in 4 of the last 6 games. This most recent game yesterday against the Los Angeles Clippers didn't have the greatest shooting night of all. I mean, really just 5 for 15 shooting. Probably one of his worst shooting nights of the season. So I would anticipate him to kind of bounce back for that. And especially taking on the Knicks should be a relatively solid game there. Now, in regards to some other play, let's see, what else did I have in regards to, because yeah, I've been tacking on Desmond Bane lately. I think the only other play that I liked was, is Jokic playing today against Sacramento? Where's Jokic's assists at? Nikola Jokic. I can get it at 9.5. I'll take it at 9.5. So that'll be the 2 plays that I like for the NBA tonight. Okay, anyway, continuing on. Let me go back to answering questions. Okay, we had a question that came in from Smirky, who says 12-team PPR format, 1 running back, quarterback, tight end, 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. Team is Dart, Shuck, CD, Rice, Adams, Tet, Rome, Pearsall, Achane, Javante, Etienne, Charbonnet, McBride. Who can I send for May and Puka? In the event in which you are trading away, okay, you're trying to get Puka and Drake May, to which my only question pretty much revolves around Smirky, and you can go ahead and respond to me in the live chat in order to let me know. Do they need a quarterback in return? Do we need to send Dart in return in order to make this happen, or is Drake May his backup quarterback? If Drake May is the backup quarterback, at that point, you're going to have to send either CeeDee Lamb or Rice, along with probably, I want to say, yeah, it probably has to be like CeeDee Lamb, Rice, plus probably Pearsall or maybe Charbonnet. Because if May's their backup and they don't need a quarterback in return, you can't justifiably give like CD or Rice plus like Javante or Etienne. That doesn't make any sense at all. I wouldn't do that. I would rather just start, But I mean, in your circumstance in which you're okay, so let's see here. If you're gonna play CeeDee Lamb, Rice here, okay, let's say you replace CD and you go with Puka, right? So you go Puka and Rice at wide receiver every week. Then you have Adams and then let's say Tet. So then theoretically speaking, you can roll Adams and Tet there every week rest season. And then you would have the flexibility of being able to move Rome Odunze or Pearsall. So technically, if you wanted to, Rice or CD plus Pearsall very easily. And if it push comes to shove, you could theoretically give like two lesser options. So which you give like a Tetaroa and Rome for this combo. I think that's probably a little bit more justifiable for us, because in your case, being able to start CeeDee Lamb, Rice, Adams, and Puka every week rest season was probably ideal. So giving away Tetaroa and Rome, I think, is actually kind of the move that which I would make if I could. They don't. Okay, so if they don't need a quarterback in return, says, would you do Adams, Javonte, and Tet for them? No, that's too much. You're giving away way too much in this circumstance. Like, I understand you need a quarterback, but Adams, Javonte, and Tetaroa are three players that technically can start for you right now and make your roster what it is. Like, I understand that you don't need to start all three of these running backs weekly, but the ability to be able to have the chance to do so doesn't mean that you have to make this trade. Like, in a 12-team league, just because they're giving you a starting quarterback and Puka, like the value which you are giving in return there, you're just overpaying way too much. You can justify it because, again, you don't need these players weekly. But if anything happens in terms of injury, that would be my only concern in this circumstance. To which, like, let's say you have Achane and Javonte rest of the season and Etienne is gone. At that point, if Javonte goes down with an injury, Charbonnet's not going to be able to get the job done, and neither is whoever the backup for Javonte is, whether it's like a Malik Davis or something. Like, I don't trust it outright. I think right now, like, giving Tet, Rome, and Sharbs is probably the play if I was going to give it away to get this combo. Otherwise, if you're just going straight for the quarterback, don't even go for Puka. Just go straight for the quarterback and just give Tet or Rome and just send it that way. If they're trying to ask for way too much. Only have to start one running back. Oh, brother, you only have to start one. Okay, give it. Send it. That's fine. Okay. So in this case, again, I would try to keep Adams because I think that Stafford offense is going to the moon still. But in the case of which you were saying, oh, wow, you only need to start running back. Okay, so yeah, that's fine. The 3-for-2 that you painted, the picture you painted for me in terms of sending Adams, Javonte, Tet for them, I would probably say I'd rather give Etienne you have Puka, CD, Rice, Rome, Achane. Yeah, that's fine. The trade works. If you want to give Adams, Javonte, Tet, that's fine. If they'll take Etienne, that's fine. Whichever way it goes, because you're never going to start anybody except for Achane rest of the season outside of this week, I think because of the one RB, one quarterback, one tight end, double wide receiver, double flex format, full PPR, you want to start 4 wide receivers weekly. So you want to have the depth of CD, Rice, Puka, and then one of these 3. I would prefer to keep Adams, again, because I think in terms of the rest of the season and what he has done thus far this season, he is the preferred. So again, if you can give away Tetaroa, Rome, and maybe one of these 2 running backs, it works. That's fine by me. Thank you. Appreciate the clarification. Alrighty, let's see here. Brett says, Kelsey/Warren, flex AJB Pierce or Kelsey Warren. Genuinely, if I was in your position, I'd play both tight ends. I play Kelsey and Warren at tight end and flex. Let's see here. Isaiah Davis or Brashard Smith breakout this week? I don't think Isaiah Davis is going to, and I don't think Brashard Smith is going to, but hey, if you end up popping off and it actually does happen, I'll come back here and I'll answer whatever questions you'd like, brother. Actually, I'll be asking you questions. Scratch that. Half PPR, star 1, Genty, Brees, Sean Tucker, DeAndre Swift. I probably just end up playing Genty in that circumstance. Pickens, Diggs, or McMillan, start 2. It's probably Diggs and McMillan in this circumstance because I don't really love the matchup against the Eagles secondary. They've been playing out of their minds. Tony Lopez says, I'm worried about starting 2 running backs. Starting RBs of Etienne and Warren from the stretch run. Trade deadline is today. Do I get rid of them before it's too late? Comfortable with my other positions. If you get rid of them, what can you theoretically get in return, right? Like, what is the running back depth of which you can kind of acquire in order to justify the dispersion of that kind of RBs, especially with the schedule they have ahead? What's up, Big Dog, says Constantino. Says Justin Jefferson or Pickens? I'd rather play Pickens this week. Thank you. Would you trade away Adams and ETN for Zay and Javonte in a full PPR? I wouldn't. I'd rather have Adams and ETN rest of the season. Do I trade Judkins and Pittman for Bucky? RBs are Brees, Brown, Rodriguez, Tay, Nico, and Jawan Jennings are my... As of right now, it depends on how many wide receivers and flex you can start every week. Because when I look at this roster as a whole, I think Chase Brown's a great running back, and I think going forward, he's going to be your RB1. You could justify having Judkins and Brees Hall as like your swapping options as RB2, to which in a full PPR, if you're starting Tay, Nico, and Pittman, very much so justifiable. At least you have two starters here in Judkins and Pittman that would start weekly. In comparison to Brees, who when I look at their upcoming schedule ahead, I don't find the most excitement in the potential which the Jets have going forward. I do think that in terms of their lineup having specifically Tyrod Taylor at quarterback, it does help them. But you're going to have to make the playoffs. And in the playoffs, weeks 13, or at least weeks 15 and 16 are decent. Jacksonville and New Orleans are decent. But I mean, just based off of what Jacksonville just did to the Chargers scares the crap out of me for someone like Brees in the fantasy playoffs, to which am I going to start him, or would I end up preferring to just play Rodriguez at that point against the Giants who can't stop the run? So in this circumstance, giving away two starters for one we got to really be confident in the contributions of the players that are left on roster, which I'm not 100% comfortable, because I think Jawan Jennings is kind of going to fall off here as of soon. So I'd probably just keep what you have in this circumstance. Losing by 14 already. Should I start Aaron Jones or Jawan Jennings? I'd rather start Aaron Jones. Thank you. Appreciate it. Alrighty, let's see here. What did this say from Ray Barrera? Who says? Actually, this is a question from Isaac Smith. Maybe I missed this earlier. Isaac says, full PPR, sit one. Kenneth Walker, Stevenson, Wando Robinson. Stevenson sits. Judkins, Michael Wilson. I would probably play Michael Wilson over Judkins in a full PPR. Thank you. Ray Barrera says, in a 12-man full PPR, Purdy or Goff. I would prefer, as of right now, again, I can go back and forth on this conversation, but I do prefer Purdy still in this overall kind of positioning. Also, flex Charbs or Tootin. As of now, I probably think that Charbonnet is a little bit safer because of the Tennessee matchup. Brett McCoy, 67, says full PPR, please RB2, wide receiver 2 and flex between Javonte, Sean Tucker, Tootin, Michael Wilson, and Watson. Javonte is your RB. Michael Wilson is your wide receiver. And in the flex position in a full PPR, I probably end up just rolling with Sean Tucker there. Thank you. Alrighty, how long have we been here for? About an hour 25. All right, guys, we're going to be answering questions for probably another 5-10 minutes, and we're going to close it out. Again, I'll be back tomorrow morning, live streaming from 7 to 10 a.m. PST. If you guys have any questions, be sure to swing around then. Additionally, of course, in regards to potential rankings, you can find it via the Patreon every Sunday and Thursday. Of course, ask me individualized questions, in which all the rankings that are potentially offered via the Betr sign up are also available on Patreon if that's something that you prefer in regards to that potential. We had a question that came in from Brett McCoy. We took care of that one. Now we have TJ Money 422 who says, choose two this week, Justin Jefferson or Olave Pickens. Genuinely, I would play Olave and Pickens. Genuinely. JJ McCarthy's just been, All right, let's see here. Jay sends in a question, says, Judkins, Tucker, Genty. At this point, I'd probably just go Genty and Tucker. Trade Achane for Gibbs, starting Zonovan, Knight, and Monangai. Need a win. Yeah, I would. I would trade Achane for Gibbs. Even though I do believe Achane's the better starter rest of the season, in order to get yourself the win that you need, it's definitely a necessity to make that move. Is Jaden Higgins flexible going forward? I would say that with Davis Mills, he's been great. I think going forward, his expansion post-bye week, as soon as the rookies get to that point in that season, second half, they pop off. Jaden Higgins has definitely started to expand upon the role, to which we just have to hope that it continues with CJ Stroud. But I'm hoping and I'm very hopeful that it will be continued to be making him at least hopefully a flexible option. Thanks, Andrew. Last question is Jennings, Pittman, or Judkins. I'd probably end up just playing Pittman there. Dak or Caleb? I think the Bears are probably in a good position to win, but I don't feel the most comfortable playing Caleb there. I'd probably just play Dak and hope for the best. Start 2 McMillan, JMO, Amon-Ra. I'd play Amon-Ra and probably JMO just to make sure that I get the entire encapsulation of this offense just kind of locked down. Mr. Hockeyman, 1988 sends it a question. Or sorry, 1998. Half PPR, would you trade Judkins for Kelsey? I am good at running back. I have Ferguson. I'm not sure how I feel about Ferguson rest season. If you're good at running back and you genuinely have like 3 other very solid players, then yes, I'm willing to make this trade. Asbox, what's up? Says the tight end needy teams in my league have St. Brown, Pittman, Odunze, London, Harrison, Pickens, Higgins, Olave, Diggs, and Devontae Adams. Which could I try to trade Kittle for? If you're going to trade away Kittle, you better get back you better get back a legitimate player. Like when I say a legitimate player, okay, so the contributions of what Kittle has put forth of late, I think justifies, especially when you look at the history of his success with Brock Purdy, and specifically in a full PPR coming off of last 2 games, 23 plus fantasy points, 3 of the last 4 scoring a touchdown. That in itself, and already thus far this season, if we talk about it, of the 6-7 games he's played, he scored 5 tutties. Like, he's going to be up there in terms of scoring 15 plus every week. So the wide receiver I better get in return better be 17 plus. So in this case, looking at the wide receivers of what is available, I can tell you who I'm not interested in. I don't want Marvin Harrison. And I really just don't want, at this point, Rome Odunze, to which I'm be happy with. If someone gives me St. Brown, I'll take it. If someone gives me London, I will take it. If someone gives me Pickens, I'd be interested, and I'd probably take it because of the rest of the season schedule. T. Higgins, I think it's equal, not necessary. Olave, equal, not necessary. Diggs, equal, not necessary. Devontae Adams, I would take it. If any of those, and Michael Pittman, I would also take it. But, again, it's just a matter of, like, do you have the tight end on roster to be able to fill in for Kittle once he's gone? But yeah, St. Brown, Pittman, Devontae Adams, Pickens, London, I'd be okay with any of those options. Brandon Chambers, 1495 says, trade away Lamar and Zay Flowers for May and Jamar Chase. Yes, I would immediately. Thank you. That's an auto smash for me. Flex Tucker or Charbonnet. I'd rather flex Sean Tucker in this circumstance. Genty, Judkins, Odunze. Probably Odunze and Genty. H. Timms says, full PPR. I have Christian McCaffrey as my RB1. And would you start Tucker or Aaron Jones as RB2? I would start Aaron Jones as my RB2. Nico Collins, Devontae Adams on wide receiver 1 and 2. And I play T-Mac or Michael Wilson in the flex. You probably just play T-Mac in the flex. Number 1 wide receiver matchup this week. Thank you. Theo Johnson, 80 Mitchell PPR. Need a HR play. Is it a Hail Mary? What's an HR play? Human resources play? As of right now, I'd probably just play Theo Johnson, hope he falls into the end zone. That's my genuine hope in this circumstance. All right, guys. That's going to cover for me today. I do appreciate y'all coming through, supporting the channel. We're going to call it there. Again, if you guys have any questions, you can go ahead and find me via Patreon or, of course, sign up via Betr in order to go ahead and take advantage of the opportunity of checking out the map, signing up, making that first-time deposit, making that first-time play in order to get my rankings every single Sunday morning, and, of course, potentially follow some of the plays that we made over the course of today's live stream or, of course, in yesterday's video of Hidden Gems. I do appreciate y'all. Again, I'll be back tomorrow, 7 a.m., sharp and early PST. Again, if you want to check out the Patreon, links down in the description. But outside of that, we're going to go ahead and we're going to cue the double helix. Have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Peace. I saw a couple questions sent in at the end, so if you guys are still in the neighborhood, let's go ahead and answer these really quickly. Ball is life. Says Downs, Watson, Dobbs, choose two. I would play both Green Bay receivers. Give me Dobbs and Watson. Let's see. Jacinto Esteban says pick 2 out of 4 PPR. Parker Washington, Yoshi Voss, Trey Tucker, Darius Slayton. I'd play Parker Washington and Yoshi Voss this weekend. Thank you. Home run. Thank you very much. It's an HR. Wow. Look, that's how much I don't know baseball. How we feel about Pearsall, says Flock. I'd be pretty comfortable playing him in a top 30 capacity. Probably going to move him ahead of Jawan Jennings, in fact, this week. Let's see here. Giovanna Thomas, excuse me. Giovanna says, Tootin over Warren. No, I'd still play, not Tyler Warren, Jalen Warren. I would still be very comfortable playing Jalen Warren, especially considering, again, the 3 starting linebackers of the Bears are out this week. So, again, the running game should be a little bit more effective for Jalen Warren and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And because he had a full participation of practice on Friday, I do feel comfortable regarding his health. Full PPR, Addison or Worthy, I would still lean towards Addison in that circumstance, despite the fact that I don't love him as a play. I think he's certainly a better play than Worthy. Dexter says Dortch over Yoshi Voss. No, I'd still play Yoshi Voss there. Let's hear. Linton says Flacco, Trevor Lawrence, Shuck, or Bryce. I play Trevor Lawrence out of the group. Thank you. All right, guys. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day. Peace.